Okay, now what about that? It would be nice if I just turn it on. And my guest is in there. I am, and me. It's like, I cannot hear you. Okay, I was trying to connect some things. Thank you so much. I am so excited to be with you all on today. Thank you so much. Thank you, Patricia. I got on now. So hopefully you can see me. And Nairobi, you all can hear me. Okay, good. Thank you all so much for joining me. I am so excited, as I always am, to bring you all awesome guests to help fill this iRock.TV hour. It is absolutely phenomenal when I bring these guests to you so you can get an inside look at what their careers are all about, how they transition into their career, and also get an inside look of the steps on what they've taken. So maybe it can help you to think about your career. And even if you want to transition over into owning your own business, you know, the possibilities are endless. As I look at all of the articles about the Great Resignation that's happening all across the U.S., I guess you can say over the world, you know, employers are really looking for a talent, and they are actually offering incentives for people to come on board because people have gotten used to this 18 months of being I guess in quarantine. So therefore, we're not thinking like we used to do. So thinking about that we can go back to life the way it used to be is probably not going to happen. So therefore, we have to reinvent our thought process, reinvent the way that we're working, and employers are going to have to do the same thing. So I'm so excited to have my guest that's going to come on today to talk about this. And for those of you all who are out there, you know, I always ask you to make sure you share the broadcast, share it with your audience, tag someone, tell them to jump on here so they can see what's going on. And also, if you're out on YouTube, make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel, iRock.TV. Yes, subscribe and also hit the bell so you can get notified when another one of these videos drop so that you can be in the know. And I will always prefer that you join me live because we can interact, we can talk, you can ask questions, all that kind of good stuff. So I want to make sure that you're able to do that. So like, subscribe, comment, and share. So before I bring on my guest, I'm going to go to a quick commercial, and then I'll bring on my awesome guest. I'll be back. And I am back. Okay, I keep switching. Hey, Miss Natalie.
Hi, Nickquolette.
How are you, my dear?
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
I am doing well. I am so excited to have you here with our guest. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on. And big shout out to Christine, my former client, for connecting us and bringing you to my attention and say, you have to have her on. I'm like, girl, whatever you tell me to do, you know I'm going to do it. So I'm so excited. And we got a chance to do our practice session last week. And I mean, I feel like I've met a new BFF. So I'm so excited to have you on. And guess what, girl?
I know. I noticed this.
Yes. Yes, I think we have to hashtag these people because they need to know that we love their lip stain. It is like the best on the market. Yes, it is so awesome. So I was like, oh, it's got to put it on today. Okay, so enough of that. So I'm going to introduce you all to my awesome client. I mean, not client, my awesome guest here, and I'm going to read her bio really quickly. Okay, and then you could tell them all the rest of the good stuff. So Natalia Ruiz is the CEO of AnswerConnect. While she is a CEO now, she started her career with the company as a temporary employee, and she almost quit during her first week because she wasn't sure the job or the company was the right fit. How many of y'all can relate to that? Natalie often says that her path to success has been unconventional, and that's one of the aspects that fuels her to continue to challenge assumptions about what work, success, and the concept of balance in life look like. Natalie is an award-winning executive who has been recognized with awards for Female Executive of the Year and for Women Helping Women by the Stevie Award Association and a Woman of Influence, go girl, by the Portland Business Journal. Outside of her day job, she writes and publishes a series on Medium highlighting powerful women, is a mentor, is a volunteer, and a speaker. In all that she does, Natalie aims to lead people in places better than she finds them. And I can say she did that for me when we met last week.
Oh.
I am so excited to have you on, Natalie. I know I gave a great introduction about who you are, but give us a little bit more insight of who you are in adding to this and telling us about, okay, why were you going to quit? Come on, give us some juice.
All right. So this is a long time ago. I've been with my company. This will be my 17th year.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I started when I was 3.
Yes, exactly, girl. You look good.
Yeah. Thanks. No. So,
Yes.
I was young, and at the time, my needs and expectations for a job were really, I needed a job, and I was coming out of working so many jobs that were definitely not the right fit for a lot of reasons. The one right prior to this was in hospitality at a restaurant. Yes. Prior to that had been selling used cars, and the list goes on and on. And there's this quote by Sarah Blakely, the inventor of Spanx, that really resonated. I heard this recently. She said she sold fax machines door to door for 7 years before she invented Spanx. And there was a day that she pulled over on the side of the road. She's crying because, we think we've had it hard, but imagine door to door fax salesperson.
I just can't even imagine.
Call the director, call the producer, I'm in the wrong movie. And that's how I felt.
Wow. Now that's deep. In the wrong movie. Oh gosh. Okay, let's dig into that, because a movie is basically almost like your life, right? Because if you're thinking about from the way you started, we all can write a book. They say everybody has a book in them, but everybody really has a movie because you're living this out. So what made it so pivotal for you? By her saying that?
So if we're the main character in our movies, every good movie has a conflict, right? Every good movie has plot twists. And I would say I'd gone through an ample share. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready for the good stuff. I'm ready for... I find myself at this new company and it's really early, but the onboarding didn't exist. The culture, I couldn't see myself in it. And I'm looking around and I started to get that sinking feeling again. This isn't it. This is going to be another step towards what? It's a big question mark. Yes. But I had a moment, a pivotal opportunity, and that changed everything. Instead of doing the thing that I had done before, which is kind of internalize that if it's not working, that's a me problem. I had a chance to talk to the founder and then CEO, and he actually asked me for my insight. I'm a couple days in, he asks me how it's going, and I tell him, and that was already pretty outside of the box based on my career experience. And then that week, I heard some of the things that I'd mentioned discussed in a meeting.
Okay. Wow.
Right. So I thought, okay, maybe I won't quit this week. I just moved that down the road just a little. I want to see how this plays out. And the next week, a couple of the things that I had brought up that were concerns that were talked about at the meeting changed a week later. And I'd never experienced that. I had never seen a quick turnaround. And I was a temp. I was a couple of days in. I didn't have a fancy resume. I didn't have a crown on my head. I didn't have any reason why I would be invited into that conversation other than this was something new. And that was a change for me. Yes. Being invited in as somebody who had value, somebody who had a voice and a perspective and insight that mattered. I had never really encountered that before. And for me, that changed everything.
That is awesome because that goes right to our topic. Your unconventional backgrounds and work history can build your superpowers. And it's interesting because here you are as a temp. Because when I think of temps, people think of themselves, if they are in a temp agency, they just think they're disposable. Like,
Right.
I'm just here for a moment. I'm going to
It's
go
just
on
a
to my
plug and
next gig.
play. Exactly.
Exactly. I'm going to do whatever I have to
Mhm.
do to get my paycheck and keep it moving. But for something like that to happen, to be brought into that conversation, they found value in even you being a temporary employee. So to talk even more about that, what were you doing that you think that sparked them to say, you know what, she is a valuable part of our organization?
So, on one hand, I could lead you all to believe that it was me specifically, but truly it's the culture. It wasn't
Hmm.
just me. It was
Okay.
it was a knowledge, I think the base level of
Hmm.
knowing that we didn't have it all figured out.
Okay.
And
Hmm.
with that, you do ask, you do invite. It was much more of a startup than I knew when I started. So,
Hmm.
I walked in being pretty young and I saw commercial real estate and cubicles and headsets and people seated. I thought, well, they must know what they're doing, even
Hmm.
though I thought it kind of sucked. Um,
Uh-huh.
but truly,
Uh-huh.
it had been founded, the company had been founded in a garage, had moved into the buildings, was very iterative. And
Hmm.
what I find and what I know still to be true today is that we're the sum of our parts. We're strong because of the collective whole. And that was the case 17 years ago.
Hmm. That is absolutely phenomenal. Now let's get an inside look at what is AnyConnect. Describe your mission, vision,
Mhm.
and what
Yeah.
do you all do?
So AnswerConnect is a company that helps small and mid-sized businesses,
Mhm,
and we provide virtual reception. We also provide technology that helps these
mhm,
small and mid-sized businesses stay connected. So
mhm,
we've been around doing this for many, many years, but if you just look at
mhm,
the last 18 months with a pandemic,
mhm. Oh my
small and
gosh.
mid-sized businesses, their world was rocked more than
Mhm,
large, well-established companies.
mhm,
With our business, they're able to make sure that their phone calls are answered 24/7,
mhm,
365 by somebody who
mhm,
sounds like an extension of their office. And
mhm,
beyond that, these business owners, whether they are in an office, in their home office, or in their car going to a client site or a client visit, they're able to stay connected to their customers. We've got mobile apps and desktop apps and appointment scheduling and
mhm,
web chat, all of the pieces that can help somebody who's got a side hustle or they're an entrepreneur or a solopreneur or a mid-sized
mhm.
business really scale and make sure they're taking care of their customers.
Now that is absolutely phenomenal. Now, what kind of people do you all look for to hire, and what are the requirements?
That is an awesome question. So
Mhm,
as a temp, I started out selling the
mhm,
service. And my answer when people would ask me, well, what makes AnswerConnect different or why should I consider you all? It has
mhm,
always been starting with our people.
mhm,
The technology is amazing and it's like the magic behind the curtain, but it
mhm,
comes down to connection with somebody who you would
mhm,
want to hire to represent your business. And so
mhm,
it's a customer service role. I
mhm.
borrowed a line from the Nordstrom Way that says, hire the smile, train the skill. You can train
Yes.
somebody on doing a whole lot of things, but you can't make
Yes.
somebody glow, have good energy,
Yes.
smile when they're talking to somebody and kind of thrive off of solving problems. That's the core of what
Mhm.
we need.
Oh, that is absolutely fantastic. Now, let's talk about these superpowers. Now, when we talk about unconventional backgrounds and work
Yes.
history, how can someone use that to build their superpowers? Because here's where I'm going with that. A lot of times when I get clients in, I'm doing the initial consultation, when I'm really digging in to trying to
Mhm.
figure out what they do, I come across this perspective that I just do. And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, well, for me, it just kind of gets me because you're not a just doer. So, how can
Mhm.
someone discover their superpowers in their work history?
So first of all, we have to step outside of what we
Mhm,
think success looks like or what we think a resume looks like. You know,
mhm.
working in hospitality gives you a whole host of skills that can lead into all kinds of things. Selling cars can
Mhm.
really help you determine how to
Yes,
motivate a sales team anywhere. So I
yes.
think it's getting down to the core and also knowing, okay, if you have scheduled staff for all shifts at a restaurant and then learned how to upsell, learned how to push a certain product. How does that translate? I think it's getting back to asking yourself like the why behind the thing that you were doing. You don't just do anything. So whatever it is, I was just a landscaper.
Right.
Well, what were you doing? What was the service? Why was that important to people? Well, so they would have a beautiful yard. Why was that important? Because you're giving them their time back. They can house people and be proud of their space. What made you good at that? Well, I was great at talking to folks about what was important to them and making their dreams come true when it came to looking out at that backyard that they worked so hard for. Whatever that is, that actually translates into superpowers, unique skill sets that you can bring with you to any career path.
Exactly, because they would not have hired you, no matter if it's individually as a side gig that you're doing it, or you're working for an organization, if you didn't have something to offer. And I always look at that term, human resource. And what that means is that as a human, you become a resource to that organization, to that company. And then we have to understand what value we bring. And then if we're able to understand the value that we bring, then it won't become just a job, it becomes a career. And so how did you build the building blocks for yourself to be successful in what you're doing?
So I think in almost every job, the core building blocks are being able to connect with people.
Yeah.
Having emotional intelligence, being able to connect, understand people, and you can learn that in so many ways. So I think at every stage, just trying to level up that skill set, getting to work with, sell to, collaborate with a diverse group of people, reading the room very quickly, being courageous enough to say, how does that land with you? And work through that. Though there's all of these different levels to those building blocks, but that's what leads to everything from customer service to sales to account management to leadership to becoming an executive. Certainly there's skills to learn as well on specific, programs and understanding, different aspects of business. But if you can't connect with people, if people don't want to work with you, collaborate with you, can't be authentic, vulnerable with you, there's going to be a limit to how far you can make it.
Exactly. And I love the fact that you have had your trajectory and then now you're the CEO. So for my audience, walk us through the steps, become a temporary, then you go. Tell me, how did you do that? Because that is fantastic that you come from a temp position and now you own the company. Come on, girl, tell us.
So I get to lead the company. So I would say that the path was a lot of growth from the inside out. So, a temp and selling the service, really being on that ground floor, I got to follow my curiosity. So I understood then, okay, this is the core service that we're providing. And now I understand some of the problems that we're solving for our customers from that sales side. Then I wanted to know, well, after we bring in a customer, how do we take care of them? So that led me to the account management customer service side. So I got that. Then I wanted to really answer that question that you asked, like, what are we looking for in people? And how are we setting our people up for success? And what makes them amazing? And by the way, if you have someone who stays with you for 10 years supporting your customers, they're going to be remarkable. So how do we keep them? And how do we invest in our people? And so I had an opportunity to just follow my curiosities, which also helped me learn along the way. And I think at the point after 9 years of poking my head into almost every department, that's how I got the opportunity to become CEO. I'd learned so many different aspects of the business, and the job of CEO is ultimately to make sure the company's healthy. And so
and I love that.
Defined.
Oh, look at this, my girl Stacy. She said she sounds like she was the world's perfect employee, and I love that.
We'll see, Nickquolette, if you ask any of those questions about mistakes, because
and you know I'm going there in a minute. But I want to piggyback on right. We can talk definitely about that because that's a good piggyback off of what Stacy is saying. But I really want to hone in for the audience now. What she just described, you all, is something that I always talk to my clients about, you all about, and even my direct staff about business acumen. because once you develop your business acumen and following your curiosity, that, like Natalie said, you will be able to build a career because you're following the trajectory of an actual organization to understand why they basically exist. Why are they in business? Because if you're not connecting with the organization that you're currently working for, or the one that you want to work for, and understand what it means for you, you're always going to be on the search for another opportunity. You're always going to be not feeling the best on what you're doing because you don't have an understanding on how your role fits into the overall big picture. Would you agree?
Yes, 100%. 100%. It's getting the opportunity to understand the core of like, what is it that we do here? And beyond that, why is it that we're doing this? And if you can understand that, keep that with you as you grow. That is the path. Mapping out that journey for why the business exists will fuel all kinds of growth.
Oh my gosh. And when you can contribute to that growth and that bottom line, I'm sure Natalie can tell you that you will grow financially with your income as far as your paycheck and bonuses and accolades and everything else, because you are literally contributing to that. And like Stacey said, wow, that's so true. You'll just be working for sake. And we don't want that. Go ahead, Natalie. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's great. I was going to say, when you can understand and then articulate, why does this business exist?
Yes.
It makes it much easier to think of, how can I contribute? How can I influence that? How can I be instrumental in influencing that? And this is when we go back to unconventional backgrounds. Why does this business exist? And now I'm calling on everything that I've learned. I like to call it paid training, right? The paid training of all the jobs that didn't work out.
I love it. Yes.
I'm going to funnel that in to helping maximize this why.
And that is so good, because even some clients that I've talked to, even my audience, they sometimes get concerned about, I've had so many jobs and it appears that I'm job hopping. And I've had one client one time that the companies unfortunately just folded. They were startups and they unfolded. I said, well, let's not focus on the actual organization. Let's flip the script or focus on you. What did you bring to the table? Let's build a career document branding strategy for that and take the focus off of the actual company itself, because like you've done, you've taken all your different experiences and created basically a career brand for yourself that you can take those skills, your superpowers, and go to any company and see how they fit. And I love the fact that you use it as training ground, because we don't really look at it as training ground. We just, that company folded. And then they become, just disenfranchised with the whole, corporate or finding a job or what have you. But they don't understand. You've just been trained. Even though the company folded, you have skills that you've just learned. Well, and being able to package those up. Yes, ma'am.
I've seen this a lot with specifically folks who are attracted to that startup culture, which is amazing, by the way. So maximize that. I love a startup culture. I love coming in at the ground floor. I love digging in. Maybe unfortunately, not all startups thrive, but what I've learned in each of these experiences, and then yes, like you said, Nickquolette, that is their brand. It's not about the startups, whether they were worked out or not. It's their brand, their skill set, their superpowers, that something in them gets ignited when they get to come in at the ground floor with a startup.
Wow, exactly. And like Stacey said, I've never worked a job where I had that curiosity. And I'm telling you, that would keep you engaged when you're curious about what it is you do and how you fit into the big picture. And a lot of things that I find that our workers do not do is take advantage of looking at their company's mission statement, the financial statements, their things that they're doing outside of their day-to-day job. They come in, do their work, and they go home. They come in to get or they'll get an email from the CEO talking about the direction and what they want to do, and they delete it and don't even think about it. And I'm like, no, that's valuable information that will help you understand from a business perspective how this business is being run and why you're so important. And people don't understand that. And then Nairobi said, absolutely, I'm writing articles and co-authoring books and teaching business, which is good for her, because then she can actually take what you're saying and help those businesses, look for the type of employees that you just described and make sure that they're understanding. Because Natalie, my goal when I get an actual client in is not necessarily trying to see why they want to run away from the organization. Because I'm always looking for employers to retain their employees, because I know how expensive it is to get somebody back in, train them, and start all over again, even to the sourcing and finding them and all that kind of stuff. So when you start speaking about retaining your employees, what are some of the things that you do to keep them there? And what's the average tenure there as well?
So retention is a huge goal. And you mentioned the Great Resignation. I mean, I just saw a stat today that said 40% of employees are thinking about resigning. It was from Microsoft Research. I like double checked it. I'm like 40%.
That
but
is
we all just
huge.
We all just came through some catastrophic events that rocked us, and I think made us really have to think hard about what we're trading our time for.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you just said it. Yes, go ahead.
So with that, how do you retain people? You make sure that they know that, first of all, that what they do and the role that they play, it matters. It's part of a bigger whole, meaning they need some autonomy with that. So you need some autonomy. You need to feel like you can thrive, like you can get better at what you're doing, and you need to take care of people. So Dan Pink wrote a book on this, Drive. It's autonomy, mastery, purpose, I think. And he says those three things have to be there. But before you can really get there, you have to pay people so that money isn't their number one concern. If we're all worried about how we're going to make rent and how we're going to feed our family, we can't start thinking about autonomy and mastery. We're thinking about the grocery store. And so you have to take care of folks and then give them an environment where they really want to grow roots, where they can really see themselves reflected back and the value that they bring appreciated.
Exactly. And that is so key, because what I'm finding as well, a lot of companies are offering signing bonuses and increasing the actual salaries. And they're also lowering some of the requirements, because there's a big thing that I would see sometimes on LinkedIn from some of my peers and even recruiters, and asking employers to stop posting jobs without a salary range, and then to have them have a master's degree for a job that pays them $17 an hour. It's like, are you kidding me?
This whole situation, when we talk about an unconventional background, like, by the way, education, amazing, like rock on. I hope, but if there's also lived experience, there's also work experience, there's also so much that comes in, and we're at a point that could be a big opportunity for a pivot, and hopefully will be, because you can attract so much more diverse talent when you cast a wider net, when you stop saying that you need a master's degree for a job that doesn't necessarily require a master's degree. Just stop with the barriers of entry. Look for the specific skills, the specific the addition to your culture, to your org. What is it that you're looking to add, and go for that?
Exactly, because when you think about Mark Zuckerberg, how he grew, Facebook, he didn't finish college. I mean, he used his intellect to be able to grow an amazing company. And that's it. Oh my gosh.
There are so many examples. There's so many examples of these big, tech giants, these famous men who have done it differently. Yet we still have in our mind that the cookie cutter for what success looks like, the path for what takes you to success, has to be a certain way. And that's just not the case.
No, especially when you can learn so much on YouTube, like this channel here, iRock TV. You can self-educate. You can self-educate yourself on how to be a graphic designer by taking courses. You can self-educate yourself on so many different areas that you don't have to go the traditional route. And I like how you talked about earlier, how it's about the emotional intelligence. And it's so funny that you spoke about this, because I was in a group yesterday, like a peer-to-peer mentoring group. And one of the ladies was talking about emotional intelligence and how it's so key to organization success. And I so agree with that, because if you look at that first, then you can build an astounding organization, and then the skills can always be trained too, right?
Well, so there's a lot of automation. There's a lot of technology. The world is changing quickly, and I'm so grateful. I don't have to make that many Excel spreadsheets myself.
Yes.
Because there's lots of ways to get that done, but being able
Yeah.
to connect with folks, set the stretch goal and help
Mm-hmm.
people work towards it, that's a
Mm-hmm.
skill. The Excel
Mm-hmm.
spreadsheet can, you can plug that in and there's a tool that can probably make that happen. I'm not going to
Right.
spend more of my time trying to necessarily get better at that. I am going to
Mm-hmm.
spend more of my time working on being a more effective communicator, a better leader,
I love
somebody who
that.
can facilitate conversations that have conflict and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the superpower.
Yeah, and you're building your strengths and not focusing on your weaknesses. And that's what I coach my clients to. Okay, stop telling me what you think you need to do. I had a director telling me, I'm just, scared because I need to go and learn PowerPoint. I said, PowerPoint. I said,
Are
you're
you
a director. You can hire somebody to do that PowerPoint. What? She said, I never thought about that, Nickquolette. I said, who told you to learn PowerPoint?
unless
No, you
unless that
don't.
like jazzes you up,
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
do it. Do
Yeah, if you thinking that is a barrier to you entering into
Mhm.
the next role, which is the VP, I don't think many VPs are there trying to figure out how to do a PowerPoint. As your CEO, do you figure out how to do a PowerPoint? Just I don't know, do you have somebody doing that for you? Come on now.
I make some really awful rough drafts that help set the tone for what will ultimately happen.
I'm trying to do the fixes for me. That's
I
about it.
learned
But I mean, it shouldn't be a barrier to entry.
I learned early in my career
Yes.
doing it like quick and ugly and then getting to the person who's the pro from
Yes.
whether it's
It's
design,
better.
whether it's mocking something up, whether it's writing something, quick and ugly,
Yes.
give it to the professional,
Let
let
them
them
do
do
it.
their magic.
I love that. Okay, now we go backtrack. So tell us, what have been some of the failures or obstacles or hurdles that you have had in your career that have
Mm.
helped you get to where you are and even build a stronger backbone for you?
So I love experiments,
Mhm,
and my work culture, my company, we're very innovative. And so that all sounds really
mhm.
rosy until you figure
Yeah.
out that when you experiment a lot and you try a lot of things, there's a lot of failure.
Mhm,
Um, I can think of one failure that was particularly painful, and the way that it
mhm,
played out made
mhm,
all the difference for me. So
mhm,
I had this idea. I was going to revolutionize the way that we took care of our customers. And this was
mhm.
me. So it's like I could name many, many failures here, but this was me, one, thinking that everyone was wired the way I was. Big
Oh.
mistake. So I
Mhm.
thought I'm going to motivate people the way I would be motivated, which is very much like
Yes.
sales. I'm going to rearrange the way that we take care of our customers, and I'm going to make these people who are not salespeople incentivized kind of like salespeople. We're going to roll out new job descriptions, new pay scales, new cadence for
Mhm.
taking care of clients. That's a big deal. You're messing with
Yeah.
people's identity, their job description,
Okay.
etc. The data
Mhm,
came in initially and it wasn't good, but I also mistake number, 10, thought,
mhm,
let's give it more time, then
mhm.
it'll work out. So I ran the experiment for too long. So it was too big,
Mm,
too broad, and too long. And finally I had to look at
mhm.
the numbers and recognize that our employees weren't happy. It
Yeah.
wasn't generating the results for our customers.
Mhm,
It was a huge failure. It was expensive,
mhm,
and I knew that
mhm,
it was going to take a lot to unwind it. And I
mhm.
remember I had seen the report. I knew my bosses had seen the report, and I had this
Mm,
knot in my stomach. Like,
wow.
am I going to get fired? Am I going to get demoted? I'm certainly
Yeah.
never going to be trusted to do something like this again. And I had the guilt and the
Mm.
shame and the embarrassment, and I'm very impatient. So, like, I couldn't wait. I'm like, why aren't they talking to me about it yet? So, I remember
Uh-huh.
finally I couldn't take it anymore. And I marched into my boss's office and I said, I saw the report. It's time to pull the plug. I've made a huge mistake. I should have tried this on a smaller
Mm,
scale. It shouldn't have been so massive. It wasn't effective. And I went through all of the things. And I
mhm.
remember vividly because they just looked at me and said, well, it sounds like you learned a lot. I'm sure it'll go better next time.
I love it. And here you are just
So
beating yourself up about it because, for one, it's your baby. So, yeah,
totally.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
so that was huge because psychological safety is
Yes.
essential. And if you want to have an
Mhm,
innovative culture where people can try
mhm.
things, if you want to have a culture where somebody
Yeah.
can run an experiment, how you handle failure is essential. It matters. Now,
Mhm.
being
Yes.
years down the road, I know that my boss was probably not feeling great on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
It was so important the way they handled it to be able to be cool as a cucumber and in that moment assure me that it was okay and I was going to have a chance to try something again soon. And that kept me going.
Wow. Oh, and that is so powerful because for them to see that, number one, you learned something. So now you know how to go at it a different way. They see that still as a stepping stone and skill set that they can utilize and to give you the grace for yourself. Because we all beat ourselves up when our babies don't go right. Our projects, anything that we're doing, because we're thinking, oh, like you said, oh, I'm going to get fired. I'm going to get written up or something like that. Well, you have to give yourself some grace because it can be that detrimental. I can tell you some of my stories early on that I still just kind of shudder about. But anyway, all of those things, but I love that.
So mistakes are going to happen. I always say, make the mistakes within the guardrails that you're not sacrificing our reputation. You're not doing something that's going to be detrimental to our clients or our people, and then we can fix it. And while we're talking about paid training, mistakes, they're the best teacher. I wish it was different, but they stick with us.
Yeah, exactly. And even when you think about, parents letting go their children, we all had to make our mistakes and then we learn from them. Sometimes we have to let them go and let them learn as well, because the having those mistakes is the best teacher of all.
I wish we could just tell them what to do, what not to do.
And guard them and save them and say, no, I don't want that to happen. But hey, that's how we learn too, right?
It is.
I love it.
It is. So paid training, it's going to happen.
Regardless. Okay, I got another question for you. So what advice would you give someone wanting to pursue a career like yours?
So I cannot overstate the value of learning. Committing to learning. Nickquolette, you already mentioned what's available on YouTube, what's available on podcasts, what's available here. I wish I had started earlier, but I have a daily habit of learning from experts, just filling my brain with whether it's an audiobook, a podcast, a talk. These days you can get talks at Stanford. You can get talks at, all these great schools that I didn't attend for free.
Yes.
Committing to doing that levels up your understanding. It's like being in the room with people who are talking about things that you aren't a pro at yet. And you start picking it up, and doing that over time compounds. So whatever it is that you are interested in learning, or even just if we're talking about business acumen, start listening to folks who are in that space and listen to what they talk about, listen to what they're into. They'll mention books that they've read. They'll mention conferences they've attended. Follow that curiosity. And again, I remember when I kind of started this, and I'd gotten a kickstart, luckily, because we do this at work, but I thought, really, I'm going to just spend time listening to these venture capitalists on YouTube? Like, that seems boring.
Really?
Right? That wasn't in my wheelhouse at the time. But you do it over time, and you're like, oh, actually, I know what they're talking about now. Oh, that makes sense. And now when I'm in this conversation, I have something that I have a lens to see that through. I have a level of understanding. So I would say certainly there's tons to do as you want to level up your career, but continued learning and just make that part of it. We exercise, we have the TV shows that we like to watch. We've got daily habits. Add in learning 20 or 30 minutes a day while you're driving or you're loading the dishwasher or whatever the case is. Make it a habit.
I love that. And I like the fact that you said 20 or 30 minutes, because some people think that you have to sit down for hours and hours and hours. No, it's the intentionality about doing it, and then setting a limit for yourself that you can fit it in. So that means anybody can fit stuff in, because I find myself even finding YouTube things, shorts, like 5 minutes just to teach me one little thing. And I can fit that in really quickly. That could be a commercial break, So you can actually learn those things and following your curiosity, like you said. So great advice. So tell me about some of the resources that you that have helped you along the way, and some that you would recommend.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I became a complete audiobook nut. So, I love a physical book, but I'll just say, driving around, having a family, audiobooks are the way that I get it in. So I'm a huge fan. I'm trying to think of some of the books. There's a book called Multipliers that was huge for me. It's I can't think of the name of the
Okay.
author, but
I'll put that in here.
Multipliers was great. What
Okay.
got you here won't get you there was another one. And that was effectively like, okay, so you're at a certain level of success, but you want to go beyond. You can't do the same thing. Not the same bag of tricks. You're going to have to change. All things Brene Brown, as she talks about vulnerability, as she talks about how that relates to the workplace. I became completely obsessed with Brene Brown, and she started her coaching and writing books that were more geared to the workplace. And we didn't grow up, at least I didn't grow up thinking that you could be vulnerable at work. That wasn't.
Wow.
So I highly recommend. There's a few books by Adam Grant, and he's also great to follow. He just released a book relatively recently that I read called Think Again. It's about questioning our beliefs and rethinking things. And I loved the nugget in there. So I have long discussed my battles with imposter syndrome or limiting beliefs, or kind of like the gremlins that are like, you know, who do you think you are? But also you don't belong here. In his book, I loved it because he talked about how those limiting beliefs, that imposter syndrome, that question mark could actually be a superpower because it makes some of us work a lot harder.
Wow. That is awesome. Yeah. And it goes back to your curiosity, right?
Right.
Because you're going to do it because you're like, you know what? I'm going to get this no matter what.
If you walk into a room and think this place was made for me, I belong here. It's all perfect. They're lucky to have me, which, you know, I aspire to feel that way someday. But really, it's like, I've got to double prepare. I've got to be 50% better. I've got to really push it. And that has been some fuel. Now, I think there's some other things that play into imposter syndrome, and that's society, and that's all of the isms and things like this. But if we boil it down to the core of just being motivated to be our best, that's the superpower.
Oh, that is absolutely fabulous. I put those books in the chat, you all, so you all can go look them up. At least put the little topic in. I could get the whole thing, but go back and rewind and watch this again and then put it in there. So tell me about 2 to 3 people who have been the most influential to you.
Gosh, let's see. So I'll start personal. Personal life, I have to give accolades to my grandparents. They've passed, but they were like the bedrock for who I hope to be. And anybody who knew them would talk about their home. They had a big family. They had 8 kids, and all 8 kids had friends coming in and baseball teams coming in. So their dinner table was always open. I grew up thinking they were rich, like wealthy, because, you know, extra people at dinner, and there was always an abundance and all of these things. It wasn't until I grew much older that I learned, you know, my grandpa was a truck driver and my grandma didn't work outside of the home because she had 8 kids. But their generosity was huge. So I hope to be that kind of person. And I think they were just great role models all the way around. So they influence me. They are heroes of my life for just kind of setting that North Star. Professionally, I mean, there's folks who I get to work with every day who fill my cup, who are remarkable, hardworking, just brilliant. And I'm so lucky for that. When I first became a CEO, I didn't know any women CEOs. And so I took to YouTube and I started looking them up. And Indra Nooyi, who was the CEO and chairperson for Pepsi for many, many years, was somebody who I followed.
I love her.
She is remarkable. And
she is.
I listened to the way that she spoke. I listened to the way that she handled like not very nice interview questions. I listened to all of these things, and her humility and her grace knocked my socks off because she's so smart underneath all of that, but so humble. And so that gave me a goal for, you know, handling those circumstances better. And, you know, again, how does she present herself in this setting? And that's aspirational for me still.
And I love the story she tells when no matter how big she is, her mother still makes her go pick up the gallon of milk. She said, I'm still the daughter. I still have to go get milk and run to the grocery store. No, she don't care about what title I have.
That is my favorite story. And I think that is what it cemented.
Yes.
Like whatever you have going on at work, whatever you have going on, it doesn't matter how big of a shot you think you are at work. When your family or your kid or your people need you, like Time to go to the grocery store and pick that up.
Right. Exactly. Great. I love the fact that you took to the internet to find someone like you, because again, it's not many of women that are CEOs. And I love that you looked for some and then you aspire to learn from them so you can do what you do at the top of your game. And I love that. Anybody else?
Oh gosh. Well, I mentioned the Sarah Blakely story earlier.
Yeah, right.
I love her because, well,
Yes.
for so many reasons. And she seems human. She invented something. I love her story. She's all about manifesting. She like asked the universe for this idea, and I believe in the power of positive thinking. It's all in what you're looking for. But there's so many examples. There's so many influential people. Again, my mom, my sister, my girlfriends. I would not be who I am without my my girl gang that's enthusiastically cheering me on.
Yes. Yes, because I teach my daughter now. She has a group of friends. I said, these are going to be your friends through life, through ups and downs, through marriage, through divorce, or what have you. I pray for that won't happen. But those girlfriends will be there for you. So hold them tight, because they will be your confidants. And you, as you get older, your group becomes smaller. And now she's realized that. I said, those are your tight-knit girlfriends. Hold on to them. So good that you said that.
The people who have seen you through it, the people who've seen you at your lowest lows, the people who've seen you climbing back out of that and who've been there to help you.
Yes.
You can't replicate that.
No.
You just can't. And there's that value, somebody to remind you who you are, where you came from, what you've overcome, what you're capable of. It's amazing.
Yes. Okay. So if you were in my shoes, Natalie, what's one question that I did not get a chance to ask you that you would have wanted me to ask and answer it?
I mean, outside of where should you mail that check for $1 million?
We're going to get that too, Natalie.
Question. Let's see. Big dreams, big goals, scary goals, aspirations.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about that. So what are your big goals? What is your big audacious goals that you have for yourself coming up?
So I say that and then I don't have, so you mentioned,
you do. I love it.
You mentioned that everybody has a book in them, and I've always felt that. And I don't yet know exactly what that's going to be, but I think we all have stories to tell. And I think there's a lot of power in sharing our stories. And so that's one of my big, scary, hairy, audacious goals, because it's like, that's vulnerable, but I'd love to write a book. Yes. And I want to keep, I want to keep pushing the limits of what's possible. I'm a working mom. I have the best job that I could imagine. And I want to live to the fullest. I want to make the most of all of these opportunities that I've got.
Well, awesome. But I did want to ask another question. Where can we find your articles on Medium? So tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay. Well, so how that came about. So through my job, I got promoted to CEO. I had always worked. I'm going to always work at this company for, as far as I can foresee. And so I didn't spend much time telling my stories outside of my organization. I didn't spend much time thinking about external things. And I didn't want to. I don't really, I didn't like public speaking. I told you I still had those gremlins, but I recognized, whether you mention, Zuckerberg or Bezos or Indra Nooyi or Sarah Blakely, there is a job of telling those stories and being out there. And so I had this experience of starting to speak and write and do things, but I had the help of my organization. And it pulled back the curtain on the fact that you can be amazing. You can be remarkable at what you do. And I'm sorry, they're still not going to knock on your door and say, oh, hey, you seem awesome. Can we feature you? You have to promote yourself. You have to write a pitch. There's a whole process for this. And I didn't know. I truly was naive to this. I thought if I saw somebody on the cover of a magazine, or I saw somebody with a byline, or I saw somebody on a show like this, it was because you just heard about me and you called me, not that you have to make yourself known. And so for me, I started thinking about women, and I started thinking about entrepreneurial women who
Mm-hmm.
didn't necessarily have all of the resources to have a team or to
Mm-hmm.
write a pitch or to even know that that's happening. And it was during pandemic times, and I was missing out on some of those in-person networking things. And so I
Mm-hmm.
reached out to some of the women who I'd met through online networking, and we started writing these articles. And
Nice.
what I saw was a glow. What I saw was getting
Mm-hmm.
getting a feature was
Yeah.
just such a good experience for both of us. And I know
Yes.
personally, when my daughter gets to see, that I wrote something or I'm on something like this,
Yes.
that shows her what's possible. Like she doesn't have those limiting
Love it.
beliefs. And if we can
Mm-hmm.
amplify that by
Mm-hmm.
amplifying each other, that's what it's all
Mm-hmm.
about. So it's still, I'm still calling it an experiment because it'll probably evolve or change, but it's on Medium. It's a
Mm-hmm.
Powerful Women series. Maybe I can link in the comments after this how to find that. But
Yes. Please do.
there are
Mm-hmm.
some amazing women doing just remarkable things with their work life, with their platform, with the expertise that they have. And it's
Mm-hmm.
addictive. I could spend so much time doing it if it wasn't kind of a side thing because everybody has a story to tell. And I just
Yes.
get fully invested in these
Mm-hmm.
remarkable people and what they're up to.
Yes, and that is the whole reason I started the whole platform of YouTube first, because it's hard when you're in that imposter syndrome. Nobody knows you, but you know
Hmm.
you have value to give. So you have to sometimes create your own platform, and
Right?
then it can evolve as you evolve. Because when I started this YouTube channel and started live streaming, it was just me talking head. Tips on this, tips on that,
Hmm.
helping people because number one, I didn't have time to do a lot of writing. I wanted to do a lot of writing,
Yeah.
but people say you need to be on TV, so you just need to get out there. I said,
Yes.
this craziness, are you sure? So then I just
Yes.
took a chance and just got out there, especially when you're talking about a topic like career. You're thinking a stiff
Hmm.
suit and all this kind of
Right?
stuff. And I said, then they see me. And Natalie, whatever happens, happens. And so then I get out there, but then I've been in love with it because I get a chance to not only share my knowledge, then now I've pivoted to now share the knowledge of great guests like you to give a platform. And this is something that can live on even down through the years, because when you come back and look at this 10 years from now, say, I remember I was on her show,
Oh,
because my big audacious goal, I'm going to have a TV show
well,
about the same stuff that I do all the time on
yeah.
YouTube. And so, and then being able to evolve with you and see how that goes is going to be awesome. So I would love for you to link that in the
Hmm.
comments after we're done so everybody can get connected. And then the more we share, the more you grow. And that's what we want to do. Let me see. Nick, you've been a blessing. Oh, thank
Aw.
you, Stacy. Virtual hug. Yes, my guests are awesome. And Precious was on here earlier. Nairobi was a guest of mine. Precious was a guest of mine as
Amazing.
well. So they're on here supporting. And you know what, Stacey? I'm gonna have to get you on here too, girl. Okay, so she just published a new ebook on Amazon. Go, Nairobi! Woo,
That's
woo!
amazing.
Awesome. Keep going, girl. Keep going. Yes, everybody has a story to tell and knowledge to share. Okay, so my last question before we end. When I say I rock, what does that mean to you?
So I rock because when I'm in it, I'm fully in it. And so you're going to get my heart, you're going to get my brain, and you're going to get all of me. I'm 100% all in on anything I do and whomever I'm partnered up with.
I love it. And girl, you do rock. Yes. She said, still listening. Oh, hey, yeah, Miss Precious. And we got the break room tonight too, Precious. So hopefully you'll be on there as well. And then Stacy says, congratulations to Nairobi. I want to make sure I say hi to all of my customers. Yeah, okay. Now Patricia said that earlier. She said, hey, Jaquetta's on here. Hey, everybody. Thank y'all so much for joining me. I really appreciate all of you all for joining me always on here. And again, take a moment to share the broadcast because this has been phenomenal. Again, we talked all about unconventional work your unconventional background and work history can build your superpowers. So don't doubt what you have to offer to the world. You just need the confidence and the instillment in you. And these broadcasts that I've been doing should help you do that. Go out to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the channel, and go through. It's like over 100 videos out there to help you move the needle in your career. And that's absolutely free. But of course, if you need additional help beyond that, look me up at irockresumes.com. At the very bottom, fill out a contact us form. Get on my schedule. Let's talk about how we can create your career brand. And so you know how to utilize your superpowers for your next and even thrive in the career that you already have. Because it's not always about leaving. It's about how do you pivot yourself within your organization so you can make the best out of your career. Let's see who else I got here. Somebody just said, okay, thank you. Okay, she said, thank you, Stacy. Okay, thank you, Natalie, so much for being my guest. And I want to make sure that everybody knows how to get in contact with you. So go to www.answerconnect.com. Here's her email address at natalie@anywhere.co. And that's co, right?
Co.
Is it co?
Yes,
Or co? Okay, co.
C-O.
C-O. And is it answerconnect.com or co?
.com.
Okay. And then follow her on Twitter and also Instagram. Please make sure that you follow her. Tell people you know her. Lead them back to her interview. It was absolutely phenomenal. People need to hear what she has to say because it will help someone as well. So Natalie, if I could just give you a virtual hug, my dear, thank you so much for being my guest. I so appreciate you. And I'm going to have you back because we're going to talk about balancing you as a mom, because we had several topics that we wanted to talk about. And I want to see, as a CEO, how do you balance that? Even going back to bringing home gallons of milk and making sure you go through the drive-through for your child when you're going home. What do you do? And so that's going to be very interesting as well. So we're connected now, and I'm so excited to be connected with you. And I'll be following you, and we'll stay connected. So you hold on as I go to end this broadcast. Let me go to my outgoing thing here. And thank you all, audience, for being with me. I sure appreciate you all. And of course, we're going to be back here next week, same back channel, same time. I have another guest. I'm confirming her as of now, so I won't name the name yet. So we're looking to have another guest next week. So make sure that you connect with us as well next week. Bye for now.